Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Gulf Intelligence Daily Energy Markets podcast, where each morning we reflect on the market open in Asia. And state of traffic is $85 Brent. A market is up a little bit 2 days into the COP26, and the day before the Fed is due to meet and OPEC Plus are due to meet later in the week. So stacking all of that up, Peter McGuire, CEO of XM Australia. Peter, I'm still rocking my head this week on the very simple question of what stage of this cycle are we in? We seem to be on the doorstep of it ending for years now. I mean, even pre-COVID, this 10-year bull run, we've been on steroids for the last 18 months. Where in this cycle are we?
Well, good morning, Sean, and good morning to everyone. Greetings from Sydney. I don't know where we are, Sean. I know that one thing, I know that inflation's out of control. I know the cost of goods and everything else like that wrapped into the market is greatly impacting a lot of companies and certainly the people in Australia. And when you're looking at it globally, that's the issue I think Yellen's even asking. Is it transitory? And how long does this last for? I think that Jay Powell, I'm looking forward to his comments. And certainly from a taper standpoint, what the market, I think, inhales from his comments. And are we at the end of the run? Or do we just keep on grinding higher? And I find it every day I get up. I saw Tesla's up another $100 odd overnight. The whole market seems to be built on, I think, maybe a lot of hubris.
Peter, in some ways, speaking there with Jose in Venezuela, we're in the OPEC plus spectrum, right? Venezuela is on the extreme edge of unable to produce anywhere near its historic capacity. Now we're seeing OPEC plus in its current definition, which doesn't include Venezuela or Iran or Libya, so even they're out of it. And now we're looking at Angola and Nigeria. OPEC plus isn't even able to add its 400,000 barrels a day, or / unwilling to. I think at the moment, at least within the countries of Angola and Nigeria, they cannot do it. OPEC are meeting this week. Should they make up for those who cannot?
Well, probably they should, Sean. The great issue is, are they going to, they must be rubbing their hands with glee due to the revenue, and at 85, 87 bucks a barrel. And many forecasts are out there at, the 100 to 120 sort of number, which you just scratch your head and go, wow. So yes, possibly they should. And they've just got to be careful. The demand picture, we understand, as far as airlines starting to open up and flights crisscrossing the world again, Sean. So from a demand picture is going to be stronger for the tail end of 21, certainly building into 22 and 23. Strong forecast unless something derails, but let's assume it doesn't. So yeah, it's going to be a nice time. I'm worried about European winter from a gas supply, but that's another argument completely that as we head into a winter period. But yes, you would have to say that someone's got to make up that shortfall, and it's going to be a boon for the people that can make it up, and going to be strong revenue over the next 3 to 6 months. So it's hard to forecast out from there. Sean, it was only a couple of months ago you put out I said on the afternoon discussion, and everyone in the team was saying we're at $60 by Christmas. Today's the 2nd of November, and it's closer to 110 than 60.
Peter, the question of the phone calls from Biden administration, or at least the apparent public announcements that they're calling on OPEC Plus to do more in terms of more oil supply in order to calm down prices. Ultimately, for the first time, it strikes me, in terms of this side of the sort of the challenge, we have Russia and Saudi Arabia in the kitchen, right? We've had them in the kitchen together now for a few years but it's been a somewhat of a upward motion, trying to sort of lift prices, sort of get the market stabilized. But now, for the first time, really, in that sort of 5-year cycle since Russia's been in the kitchen, that it's sort of trying to calm things down, trying to deflate the pressure of higher prices, both, because domestically in the US, that's bad news for Biden. Your thoughts on how that changes the dynamic between the sort of OPEC relationship with the US and the West, now that Russia sits firmly in the kitchen? Does Saudi have the autonomy to make these decisions as it did in the past?
I'm not really sure whether they do, Sean, to the same magnitude they did a couple of years back. And as Jose said, it's a totally different situation versus the Trump administration. And we had 3 in the kitchen at that time that were all producing 12 or odd million barrels a day. So at the present time, I think the upward swing as far as prices has really shaken the world. We understand what Bora was saying as far as no more CapEx and that whole clean deal, and Boris talking with his hydrogen agenda. So all of those components rolling in, looks like we're into a very inflationary, severe move to the upside as far as crude. And if that's not contained I just look at it from a retail side.
Well, it is the new normal in that regard. Peter, your thoughts on what this means for Asia? It looks like Asia is finally coming around to the vaccination roadmap out of COVID, and with that, a more positive economic outlook.
Well, very much so, Sean. And what we're seeing is, the continued growth across the Asian equity markets, demand picture again picking up, travel. I was speaking to Vandana only a couple of hours ago, and she was in New Delhi, sent her best, and she said a lot of people are starting to travel. She's really noticing that again from Asia and all through to the Middle East and back to you guys where you are as a hub. So that whole situation, I think, is starting to move forward, and the numbers coming out of Indonesia as far as projected growth, the storylines there. We've had an 18-month big stone around our necks, literally, and now we're coming out of that with a fair bit of sunshine and a wet sail and strong wind behind our back, Sean. So I'm thinking that 22 could be a strong number, though I keep on saying, and as Bora said, I'm interested to see what happens Friday night as far as the underwhelming of last month's NFP numbers. And I didn't get a chance to say it. I think the Fed's going to be looking at that very, very closely. And that's going to be a concern for them as far as what they take off the market. It's soft in a lot of ways, and that's going to show and demonstrate, I think, where we are over the next couple of months.
Well, it does strike me, Peter, that and again, it sort of end with the first question, what state of the cycle are we at, or the other unanswerable question, what does 2% average inflation mean in terms of the Fed sort of new target, which, jobs becomes, it seems, the only reference point of definition?
Well, exactly right. And the other thing, Sean, that number, the real number, if you're looking at stud lumber, copper, you're looking at the inputs as far as building costs and all of that, what really is the inflation number? And, with higher energy prices and that rolling over the next matter of months, that's going to put a severe handbrake to everyone that's not putting their hand out for a pay rise. And a lot of people, a lot of companies in Australia can't afford a pay rise for their employees. And there's a war for talent that we're noticing. So that will, I think, impact a lot of companies, both domestically and certainly across that Asia basin, to really see the footprint as far as how we drive growth forward. A war for talent, and are you able to compete against other companies that are able to, do cheaper services due to, scalability and so on?
Let's wrap it up there. I would just finish with the idea that there's 2 numbers that are now irrelevant as one sits down to make judgment every day. One is 2% inflation. Yep. Halas, irrelevant. Don't let it distract your models. 2 is the infection rate of the COVID infection rate. Irrelevant number. The only number that matters now is what's the ICU capacity in whatever health system you exist. What is the capacity of that health system to absorb the patients that are coming through the door. We're being distracted by infection number. We're being distracted by 2% inflation. We need to somehow model up for 22 where those two numbers are parked on the sidelines. That's my comment for today. Jose Shaloub, I hope the lights get turned back on in every sense in Venezuela, one of my favorite countries in the world. I miss not getting there more often. Bora Barryman in London, thank you so much. Peter McGuire in Sydney, Australia, thank you very much. Enjoy the barbecue. All the best. We'll catch up with you later in the week. Cheers.